have any questions or concerns about safety in our school system, please feel free to contact me or the administrator at any of our schools.
So that was just a quick video we did for parents as we were preparing to return. Hey, Jorge. Hi. As we're preparing to return to the 2022-2023 school year. And of course, that was very intentional. Last May, the tragedy in Uvalde, Texas unfolded. So one of the things that we knew was that there would be, and rightfully so, a lot of concern from parents coming into this school year about what we were doing here locally to ensure that our students and staff were as safe as they could be. So we put that video out. You've got a document here with you. It's something that we tweak from time to time, and I won't go through the whole thing, but I do want to share some highlights with you of some of the things that we have in place in the school system in the area of safety. Now, please know that this list isn't an all-inclusive list. There are certain things that we have going on in the name of safety in the school system that we do not release publicly because it could negatively impact safety and security. Safety plans are something that we have at every single school and every single facility in the district. We've done this for over 20 years. They're developed on a template that is provided to us by JIMA Homeland Security. Each of those safety plans are then submitted to Mr. Kesselring, and then in turn they are submitted to these guys, to local law enforcement and to the Coweta County Emergency Management Agency. The plans have to be approved by the Newnan Police Department, Coweta County Sheriff's Office, and the Emergency Management Agency. So there's that accountability there to make sure that we have the right things in the plan if something were to happen. These plans are pretty comprehensive. They cover everything from an earthquake to a hurricane to tornadoes to active shooters. And one thing I will mention here is, active shooter, and rightfully so, the active shooter scenario does get a lot of attention. But school safety involves so much more. There are so many things on a daily basis that we are having to account for in the name of school safety. I couldn't begin to name them all. For instance, and Mr. Kesselring is not upset about this, but he's going to be excused here in a few minutes because he has to go and watch a weather briefing. Because we've got a storm that's hundreds of miles from here, but we're trying to work with the Weather Service and Emergency Management to see if that could potentially impact our operation in some way over the next couple of days. Luckily, it looks like it's not going to, but we're having to pay attention to that. We have a district-wide safety committee that meets periodically. It has members of local law enforcement, state law enforcement, emergency management. It also has building and system administrators that meet periodically to talk about what the current trends are in safety and what we need to tweak or to adjust. We have a direct line to the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, JIMA, and the Department of Homeland Security. Our Area 6 representative is a gentleman named Kevin Stanfield, and I can call on Kevin 24/7. Oftentimes, Kevin knows about something before I do, and he'll call me on a Sunday morning. And if you get a call from Kevin, it's probably not a good thing, but that is a great thing for me because I know that they're on it, and I can have access to state resources immediately for any type of event or any type of threat. JIMA also does periodic threat or safety assessments, not threat assessments. They do those as well, but they also do safety assessments. And just 2 weeks ago, Mr. Kesselring, I'm going to make you talk probably before you leave, but just a couple weeks ago, JIMA came in and did safety assessments of all 32 of our campuses and our central office buildings. We've gotten some great feedback on those. We're still waiting on the final report. Mr. Kesselring, I don't know, you want to take the mic there, and I'm going to put you on the spot before you get out of here.
All right, so we were fortunate that Kevin was able to walk around all of our schools, spent a couple hours at each school. We gave the principals a checklist ahead of time. They went through that checklist, then we walked, and he reviewed items that need to be maybe improved or gave us suggestions. And it's very beneficial because there are some things, you know, when you get an outside perspective, it's always helpful. So we're going to take all those suggestions, and we're going to go ahead and implement those to make our schools even safer. And our principals were very engaged. They realize that safety is a top priority. You know, we've all had our eyes open last May, so we appreciate JIMA and all they've done, and just like our local police departments, who also always give us some insight into ways we can improve safety. So we're looking forward to continuing our great relationship with JIMA and Newnan Police Department and Coweta County Sheriff's Office.
One of the things that I think really sets our system apart, something that my predecessor, Dr. Barker, worked with our local leaders to put in place back in 2017, right after the Parkland shooting. We were one of the first systems in Georgia to have a school resource officer in every school. We currently have one resource officer in all elementary and middle schools. We have 2 at Northgate and East Coweta High School. And then because of some changes that we've had to undergo at Newnan in the aftermath of the tornado, we had to split Newnan's campus. We have 3 school resource officers at the Newnan High School campus. Can't say enough about the relationship that we have with our local law enforcement partners. And I've been in the system, this is year 23 in the system. It's always been that way. Talking to former superintendents, it has always been that our local law enforcement partners were a simple phone call away. I see Jimmy Yarborough here. We've always been able to call on him. Sheriff Wood, Sheriff Yeager before him, Chief Blankenship, Chief Meadows. 24/7, I can get access to, or the staff can get access to, our law enforcement partners. And we are so lucky here because it's not that way everywhere. It's not that way everywhere. In the aftermath of the tornado, within an hour of the tornado striking downtown, Mr. Kesselring and I were in the Emergency Operations Center at Coweta 911 EMA. We had firsthand information to be able to make the decisions that we were going to need to make in the immediate aftermath of that storm. Guys, we're so fortunate. That does not happen everywhere, but it does happen here. And it happens because of the years of relationship building that has gone on between the leaders of these various agencies in our community. Along with those lines, SWAT teams and law enforcement use our buildings frequently. That's both local and state level law enforcement. I love for them to train in our buildings. Nothing makes me happier than to pull up at East Coweta High School in the summer and see SWAT training going on, or to look across the street and see canine teams training in our central office warehouse. That allows them to get familiar with our buildings in case something happens. That's a huge benefit to us, so we welcome that. We do a variety of emergency drills. We do everything from active shooter drills to tornado drills to strategic badge drills. I mean, a lot of them are required by the state, but we also do additional drills here at the local level just to make sure that our kids and our staff members are prepared in the event that something may happen. We have a protocol in place at the district level. Name the emergency, from a power outage to an accident on campus. We have a protocol in place at the district level where if something happens at the school, we're sending help. We have communication teams. We have a crisis team that will go. We also have what we call an on-site team, a go-ahead team, that will go and assist those building level administrators and teachers with whatever's going on. You know, people often don't think that communication is a big part of safety, but communication is a huge part of safety. So we utilize a system for sending text messages and phone calls to parents in the event that an incident is occurring somewhere in our district. It's called Remind 101. One thing that the tornado taught me that a lot of times when there's an emergency, people really don't care what you're saying, but they want to hear from you. They want to know that you're on top of it and that you're going to communicate with them about what's going on in a school situation. So if we have a power outage, say, at a school, we always want to make sure that we let parents know that the power's out. We want to let them know if everybody's safe and accounted for, and we want to let them know the potential restoration time. And I see my friend Chris Stevens. I won't pick on power outages, man. I'm sorry. They do a great job of keeping the power on. That was just the example that came to my mind. But if we have that, we want to make sure that we're communicating with parents so that parents can be reassured that we're on top of whatever's going on. From a physical facility standpoint, the Board of Education, for the better part of about the last 15 years, has made investments, financial investments, to make our schools safer. One of the most visible ways that you'll see that is when you go into, I want to say 29 of our 32 schools, you will see secure vestibules in the front. I call them visitor traps. So you walk into the front door and there's a glass wall basically, or a knee wall, and you got the secretary sitting there. And you're not getting past her unless she buzzes you in the building. So we are directing access to, or who gets access to, those school buildings. The board has invested millions of dollars over the last several years in eSPLOS funds to get those visitor traps or secure vestibules in our buildings. Surveillance cameras, something we're actually adding more of now across the district, but over the course of about the last 10 years, there's been a concerted effort to also use eSPLOS funds to increase the number of surveillance cameras that we have on our campus. East Coweta High School, where Vince and I worked together, we did a renovation over there, Vince, back in 2012, something like that. We did a renovation and added hundreds of security cameras so that we would have eyes both inside and outside on that facility. Vince, you want to be put on the spot now and talk about the job those things do every day? And you don't? See? He doesn't want to. Vince Meadows, ladies and gentlemen. I will say this. Bob said that Vince was his first SRO. Vince was also my first SRO at East Coweta High School. And he is someone, I don't want to embarrass him. I've told his supervisors this. I trust Vince Meadows with anything. I knew as a principal, and I now know as superintendent, that when Vince Meadows tells me something, he's never going to steer me wrong. It's important, though, when you're talking about the livelihoods and the safety of students and staff. And Vince and Lieutenant Van Zant, they represent or embody the types of individuals that are SROs in our school system. I know you've heard a lot over the past several months about the roles that SROs play in certain situations. Say this about them and the people that they supervise. I have no doubt that no matter the situation, that the men and women in our SRO unit will do whatever it takes to ensure that our students and staff are taken care of. And I have never doubted it for a second because of the types of people they are. They are good people, and I thank them for what they do. When you look at physical security, we also have something called the SHIELD system in our elementaries and middle schools. And what that allows is the push of a button. If something's going on, a building can be locked down and law enforcement can be contacted immediately. So it cuts out the middleman. What you hear a lot of times in law enforcement circles is you hear that response time is it's probably the number one factor when you're dealing with things like an active shooter situation or an intruder on a campus. The quicker they can get there, the quicker that threat can be neutralized. So over the course of the last several years, as far as physical upgrades to our campuses, we've really worked hard to cut down response time. So at the push of a button, campus can be locked down, an intruder per se could be locked into a certain area, and we can get law enforcement on the way, because in an emergency such as that, seconds matter, minutes matter. So we've gone to something called the SHIELD system that does just that. We've also got eSPLOS 6 funds that are budgeted to add that capability at, I think, 2 remaining middle schools. It just hasn't quite been done yet, but we're working on that. Several years ago, Governor Kemp allocated school improvement or school safety grants, $30,000 per school. And what we did was we wanted to take the shield system a step further, because the shield system still requires that you get to a button to be able to lock the building down. So what we did at that time was we invested those funds in a strategic crisis alert badge that will allow any staff member on any campus, any place on that campus, to be able to, and I'm not going to hit the button because the cavalry may come running, but hit the button and it'll lock the place down. The sirens start going off. Everybody goes into their safety mode, depending on what it is, and it decreases that response time. And it doesn't matter where on the campus you are. You could be on a playground, you could be in a stadium, the library, classroom, wherever, and just like that, you can lock the entire campus down. Pretty powerful tool. It's not good when you set your briefcase or backpack on it, and the superintendent's calling at 7:15 in the morning, freaking out, thinking we got something going on. But we're working through those things. But it's a great tool. You know, when we talk safety, and I may see if Lieutenant Van Zandt will talk. We'll see. When we talk safety, one of the things that I talk to our staff members about all the time is making sure that we do the little things every day, and that we hold ourselves accountable for doing the little things, the simple things that allow our buildings to be as safe as they can possibly be. I had a safety expert tell me one time that the Achilles heel, you could spend millions of dollars in school safety, and the Achilles heel of your safety and security protocols are one prop door. One. You think about that for a second. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is making sure that we do those little things on a daily basis, like lock those doors. And our SROs are pretty critical to making sure that we're accountable for that by the way that they actually go about our campuses on a daily basis. I don't know if you want to talk about your guys, their beat is their school, and how you guys kind of go about walking your beat or patrolling your beat every day.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes, sir. That is exactly right. Each SRO at each individual school, that is their patrol zone or their beat for that day. They start off in the morning usually doing traffic and helping getting the students and the parents there to be able to drop off the students. Then throughout the day, they're continually checking the doors, making sure they're closed, not only the perimeter doors for the school, but also the individual classroom doors too. Very rarely do they ever find a door that way. And if so, there's usually a reason why. Maybe it didn't pull back all the way or something, but that's a continuing education. We continue working on that, and sure enough, you never find it again in that particular room. As they go through, they can also continue checking the camera systems. The cameras are recording, but as those officers are there, no matter if it's an elementary school or a middle school or a high school, with officers already there in place at that school, our response time is just extremely quick. You know, instead of having to wait for someone to call 911 like we all would have to at our own home, and then wait a couple moments for someone to show up, those officers are there, you know, that quick. And then they can communicate with other officers that would be responding over our police radio, and more officers are getting there and they're letting them know what we need, you know. And you mentioned earlier about drills. We do drills constantly, not just the training that is done through the summertime and during like October 7th on a teacher's work day, but also fire drills, tornado drills, and those officers that are at the school are there and they're a part of that because they're making sure that every person's accounted for, helping the principal, giving advice on, hey, this is the hallway, we need to make sure, maybe we need to change the route or whatever. But it's a great tool and mixture of both the school system employees, whose number one goal is the safety of the students, as well as the law enforcement's number one goal, the safety of the students and the staff, and mixed together. And I personally am just quite proud of the county that I work in the school system that we work with, and my kids go to school here too, and there's a reason why.
Thanks, Lieutenant.
Yes.
Got about 10 minutes. I want to make sure I get to any questions that you may have. I guess I'll just leave you. I'll leave you with this. I think number one, the area of school safety never stands still. It's dynamic. Every day, the safety needs change. The threats change on a daily basis. There are so many things that are out there that could impact our ability to safely have school, and we have to address those. I always tell our folks, I think in the area of safety, you have to be prepared to be proactive and reactive at the same time. I hope you can see through some of the things that we have in place that we are very proactive. We're committed to being proactive in the area of school safety. I also want you to know that when things happen, and they will, with 23,000 of your closest friends being together every day, things are going to come up. Medical emergencies are going to come up. Accidents are going to come up. Weather's going to come up. We work to be as prepared as we can be so that when we need to react, we're able to do so quickly and efficiently to make sure that everyone is out of harm's way and that every need is addressed at a moment's notice, as quickly as it possibly can be. We never stop working on it. We never stop working on it. I never stop thinking about it. I know our staff is committed to making sure that we do the little things and that we build the relationships to ensure that everyone every day is as safe as they can possibly be. I hope you see we work really hard at it. We're going to continue to reflect and to reassess and get better and better and better at the things we do and the processes we have in place. But we have a lot of good things in place. We've made a lot of investment in the area of safety over the years, and we're committed to continuing to work at it. So with that, I think we got about 7 or 8 minutes. I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has. Yes, Jonathan.
You mentioned during your discussion a lot of the training that's going towards the SROs and the teachers and the faculty in the school. What, if anything, are you all doing for the students to kind of make sure? Can you talk about that prop door? I can remember being in school, and if a buddy was running away, you prop that door open.
They get constant reminders, and our students get monthly, at the very least, monthly training on things like fire drills and that sort of stuff. But they get constant reminders. Also, visible signage about things like locked doors and places where visitors shouldn't be without a badge, those sorts of things. So they get constant reminders of the look-fors and the how-tos, definitely. Anything else? Y'all mean I covered it that well? No other questions? Well, good. I guess we're going to end early. Thank y'all for being here today. If I can ever do anything for you or answer any questions that you have, by all means, please reach out to me. It was good to be with you today. Thank you.